Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So a couple weeks ago I did I posted on Facebook a couple of pictures about how I make my daughter's baby food. She is almost 9 months, and I had a lot of questions from friends and family about kind of just the steps in the process, from how I do it to how I serve it and how I store it. I do quite a bit so that I have weeks worth of advance, and that's the beauty of the age she's at right now. She's not eating puree solids all day long every day. She still gets the bulk of her nutrition from her bottles, her milk, and we've been introducing the purees and the solids kind of in between. We did start out with a range of vegetables first so that she would acclimate her taste buds to that, and then we delayed with the fruits until we'd gone through a pretty good bit of veggies, and I think the system that worked for us. She takes her veggies very well. Of course, she loves fruit, but she really loves carrots, and she loves green peas, and she loves sweet potatoes and cream spinach. She loves all that too. So basically I don't need a lot because I just did this big bulk and I have a lot in my freezer, but I will show you the steps. I have all my stuff set out right here. Here's my baby food maker. I'll show you a picture up close of what that looks like, and then my pans and such, and I think I'm just gonna do a couple of apples. That's just something that is good always to have on hand. Apple sauce, or if you want to make it a little bit chunkier and mix it with Greek yogurt, then you have apple yogurt. I did do that a while back and she really liked that. So let me flip the camera around and I'll just kind of show you how I do it. Okay guys, so I have chopped up, I think this is just one apple. I'm just doing this kind of for demonstration purposes, so I didn't want to chop up a lot. I leave the skin on, that's totally optional. This is the baby food maker. Basically it has 3 levels for water, 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be based on the type of food that you are steaming in order to puree it. So for example, your carrots and your potatoes and your apples are going to require the level 3 amount of water because they're going to take longer to steam. Something like spinach, you just need that 1 level. So I'm going to fill this up with up to the 3 level. And then there's a reservoir back here in the baby food maker. You pour that into, and then you put that on the thing. And then this is the little, I guess you could call it strainer steamer. So that goes in. Well, let's just go and put all the apples in. That goes in there. Okay, and sometimes this lid doesn't lock. There you go. Turn it on. And basically, it just is going to begin to steam. So while that's steaming the apples, I'll show you some of the other tools that I use that help with this baby food prep. Okay, so, the apples are steaming, and that'll take about anywhere between 5, 10, 12 minutes, depending on the type of vegetable or fruit that you're steaming. It'll beep when it's done, and then I'll show you how we strain it off and then put it right back in there in that container to puree it. So in the meantime, I'll show you what else I use. I mix up a little bit of her milk. You can definitely use water, regular milk, breast milk, goat's milk, whatever you have on hand. I would check with the doctor before using things like almond milk just to make sure there's no allergy issues when they're this young. The reason I add a little bit of liquid is to give it that very pureed consistency. I tried first without any liquid, and it just didn't fly yet. Maybe when she gets a little bit bigger, it was real pasty. Everything was a thick paste. So I would suggest adding just a little bit of milk, a little bit of water, and then puree, and I'll show you how all that's done. Also, I use these. I highly suggest, if you don't already have some type of silicone mold, to invest in one. I use this one. This is actually the brownie one, but it's the perfect size of a serving of baby food for what she eats now, and there's no greasing required. It just pops right out after it's been frozen. I do also use this small little miniature muffin tin, but if you're going to use a muffin tin, you have to grease it. After freezing the baby food, it will not come out. Lesson learned the hard way. I use just a little bit of coconut oil and it comes out just fine. But I for frustration purposes, I would suggest you use this one. You don't have to use this size, you could do bigger, but I knew that when I was going to do this, I wanted it to already be pre-portioned so that there wasn't a lot of excess waste and leftover and throwing away and things like that. Because when you're going from frozen to defrosted and thawed, you're not going to put it back in the freezer. So anyway, while we're waiting on that, I will show you what I do for her. She is in daycare, not every day of the week, but a few days of the week. And so the night before, I will go to my freezer and I'll show you my little stash here. Hold on. This is her baby food, and it's just, you know, I've labeled it fruits and veggies and what it is. And when I'm packing her bag for daycare the night before, I have these containers are absolutely perfect. So based on her age, it's just recommended that she eats anywhere between 2 to 4 tablespoons of a puree or a solid or something like that throughout the day. So that's how I've measured it. It's basically that. It's a nice big tablespoon, this little mold size, maybe a little bit more. So for example, I'll pack up her bottles of water the night before, put that in her bag, and then I'll put one little square baby food in this and put it in the refrigerator. And by the next morning, it's defrosted and I just throw it in her bag and we walk out the door. So for example, today's Saturday, she's not going to daycare tomorrow, but I would like her to have something this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and put something in here and just set it out on the counter. Because they're so small, they defrost fairly quickly. So, let's see. She would probably love to have some blueberries. So this is just what it looks like. I put it in there. Actually, I'll leave the lid kind of cracked. And I'm just going to set this on the counter. By this afternoon, it'll be good to go. But if you're packing it for your kids, you can't put it in the bag the night before. There's no preservatives in any of this. This is literally from vegetable to the steamer to the freezer. So if you're going to pack up, you have to remember to get it out of the fridge the next morning. But for me, that has worked perfectly. Putting in the night before, in the morning I go and I grab that and maybe juice that I've packed her. I take it to daycare, and around mid-morning or mid-afternoon, they see if she's interested in having some purees in between her bottles. And they send the container home with me and we do it all over again. So that's my method. That's how I do it. I'm trying to think of anything else. You know, just as what your kids like. As they get bigger and start to get more teeth, what you'll do is you won't have to puree it as long in the baby food maker, and I'll show you how that works because you control the dial, so you are pulsing it to the consistency that you like. Now, disclaimer here, you do not have to buy this baby food maker. It was a little expensive. It's what I considered an investment. As much as I use it, it has already paid for itself. I didn't want to buy a lot of baby food. I understand for traveling purposes, sometimes it's great, but I was hoping to just introduce her to eating what we eat regardless. So the food that I feed her are foods that Charlie and I eat anyway as a family. So basically, you could do all this without the baby food maker. It would require you to chop and boil or steam your veggies and then maybe dump them in a blender or even hand mash with the milk to get to the right consistency, which is great, but oh my goodness. it would get hot in the kitchen for the amount that I like to do it once. I don't want to have to do this all the time. I do it once every couple of months, and then I'm covered for weeks worth of baby food in the freezer, and I'm good to go that way. It also generates a lot of heat if you've got multiple pots boiling and things like that. So just disclaimer, this thing was expensive. I want to say it was $150, but it steams it for me, it purees it for me. And I read just recently there's a setting on it that will even defrost it as well. I don't know how to do that. I've just been doing defrost over, time or sitting out or in the fridge. So I definitely need to look that up. But for being very small and putting off no heat or not taking really up that much space, I was okay with purchasing it. And I'll be honest, confession, there have been a couple of summer nights where I was making dinner and I wanted to have steamed broccoli, and I keep raw broccoli in the refrigerator, and I chopped it up and I thought, I just do not want to sit here and wait for a pot of water to boil and simmer, and I had other things on the stove and it was so hot, and so I threw the broccoli in there with a little bit of water and let it steam. And like I said, 7, 8, 9 minutes later, it was ready for our dinner. And that's what I served me and my husband. So I have definitely used it for other than baby food making purposes. But I just want to let you know, you do not have to have this piece of equipment. You can definitely do this by boiling and steaming your food, hand mashing, or putting in a blender to the consistency that your baby takes, with adding that milk or water or whatever your choice is. So, okay guys, I will check back with you when it's done and we'll go from there. Okay friends, we are back and this is about done. So you're gonna undo the latch right here and you're gonna take this out. And this tool, you're gonna scoop your apples out of the draining or the steamer box. Now, here's a suggestion. If you're going to just use the water and you don't want to use milk for whatever reason, it's full of vitamins and nutrients. So this is the water that the steamed was, you know, the vegetables or fruit were steamed in. And so it does have some nutrient value if you want to use it. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of each. I'll do a little splash of the water and then I will do milk. But today I'm just going to go ahead and drain out the water. And then I'm going to turn this over and dump out the apples. Put it back on the thing there. And then I'm going to do, like I said, a couple of splashes of milk. That's how I'll start. This is your cover for when you're going to puree. And then you're just going to start to pulse. Oh, did I put that on wrong? There we go. And then I sometimes check it just to see what the consistency is like, if it's close to what I want. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So it's basically applesauce that's been fortified with milk. So from this point on, we're done with the baby food maker. And we're gonna come over here and I'm gonna use my silicone mold. And then I'm just going to fill few of the squares. I don't fill them all the way to the top, but you can. I mean, I almost do to the top, but like I said, for measurement purposes, I kind of know roughly what she will eat. And so it saves me from having to throw away or, you know, discard too much. Okay, so just to give you an idea, pat that down a little bit. This was just one apple, I decided. So you can see, you know, so another 2 apples or so, you would have this thing completely full. And I'm going to just pop this into the freezer. Now, when that's completely frozen, I'll take it out of the freezer, show you what it looks like. I mean, you're going to know what it looks like. And then I just pop it out and label it and put it into a Ziploc baggie. And then it goes back into her stash. So, like I said, you could do a little or a lot at a time. Oh, excuse me. I just prefer to do a lot. I pick a Saturday morning and I get out all my veggies and all my fruit. Sometimes it's frozen. You do not have to use fresh. I confess I use a mix. For her blueberries and some of the berries, I do frozen. For apples and sweet potatoes and carrots, regular potatoes, I do those. I buy them and I chop them up. Green beans and spinach. The spinach I will do fresh. The green beans I usually buy frozen. And green peas, I usually do those frozen as well. And it's the same concept. It doesn't matter if the vegetable you're using is frozen or fresh. You're going to fill it to the appropriate water line. And then you're going to put it in there. So you could take a bag of frozen peas and dump it in here. And it's probably only going to be 1 or 2 of the water level because it's not going to take much to steam up some peas. So it doesn't matter if the vegetable or fruit is raw or frozen. You're just going to follow the appropriate water line measurement for the steaming. So, all right, guys, I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. And that's it. That's how I make my daughter's baby food. Okay guys, Briar is up as you can hear. And just pulled these out of the freezer, so I'll show you what they look like. And they pop right out. It's They'll put it in a Ziploc baggie, label it, then I'll go into the stash. So that's how I do it, guys. That's how I prepare and serve my daughter's homemade baby food. Hope you enjoy the video.